Hi, everyone. My name is Miss Debbie. I'm a librarian here at New Providence Library. And this is your summer story time session, just to get you interested in coming to the library for our summer reading program, where we'll be giving out prizes and other incentives for reading, plus having a lot of fun. And it's air conditioned here, so you can hang out. We have lots of comfortable spots. So I'm going to read you, and you're never too old to have a book read to you or enjoy reading a picture book yourself. So this is Dr. DeSoto by William Steig, and he's got an honor. This is a Newbery Honor book, so it didn't win the medal for Book of the Year, but it was a runner-up. So the Newbery is for the story that's written. A Caldecott is for the pictures. So William Steig, he wrote Shrek. You know that? Hey, Shrek was a book before it was a movie. Dr. DeSoto. Every time I go to the dentist, I think of Dr. DeSoto. And he's a little mouse. Dr. DeSoto, the dentist, did very good work, so he had no end of patients. Those close to his own size, moles, chipmunks, etc., sat in the regular dentist chair. Larger animals sat on the floor while Dr. DeSoto stood on a ladder. For extra large animals, he had a special room. There, Dr. DeSoto was hoisted up to the patient's mouth by his assistant, who also happened to be his wife. This is so funny. Okay, so here's the waiting room for big patients. There's his wife hoisting up her husband into the mouth of a large patient. Dr. DeSoto was especially popular with the big animals. He was able to work inside their mouths wearing rubbers to keep his feet dry, and his fingers were so delicate and his drills so dainty they could hardly feel any pain. Being a mouse, he refused to treat animals that were dangerous to mice, and it said so on his sign. When the doorbell rang, he and his wife would look out the window. They wouldn't admit even the most timid-looking cat. And here they are looking out the window, and it says, "Cats and other dangerous animals not accepted for treatment." When I was a little girl, we used to go to the city to go to the dentist, and he was in you had to take an elevator way up to his office in a tall apartment building. One day, when they looked out, they saw a well-dressed fox with a flannel bandage around his jaw. "I cannot treat you, sir," Dr. DeSoto shouted. "Sir, haven't you read my sign?" "Please," the fox wailed, "have mercy. I'm suffering." And he wept so bitterly it was painful to see. Would you call those crocodile fake tears? "Just a moment," said Dr. DeSoto. "That poor fox," he whispered to his wife. "What shall we do?" "Let's risk it," said Mrs. DeSoto. She pressed the buzzer and let the fox in. He was up the stairs in a flash. "Bless your little hearts," he cried, falling to his knees. "I beg you, do something. My tooth is killing me." "Sit on the floor, sir," said Dr. DeSoto, "and remove the bandage, please." Dr. DeSoto climbed up the ladder and bravely entered the fox's mouth. Oh, he gasped. The fox had a rotten bicuspid and unusually bad breath. This tooth will have to come out, Dr. DeSoto announced, but we can make you a new one. Just stop the pain, whimpered the fox, wiping some tears away. Despite his misery, he realized he had a tasty little morsel in his mouth, and his jaw began to quiver. Keep open, yelled Dr. DeSoto. Wide open, yelled his wife. I'm giving you gas now, said Dr. DeSoto. You won't feel a thing when I yank that tooth. Soon the fox was in dreamland. Yummy, 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 he mumbled. How I love them raw, with just a pinch of salt and a dry white wine. They could guess what he was dreaming about. Mrs. DeSoto handed her husband a pole to keep the fox's mouth open. Here he is dreaming. Dr. DeSoto fastened his extractor to the bad tooth. Then he and his wife began turning the winch. Finally, with a sucking sound, the tooth popped out and hung swaying in the air. I'm bleeding, the fox yelped when he came to. Dr. DeSoto ran up the ladder and stuffed some gauze in the hole. The worst is over, he said. I'll have your new tooth ready tomorrow. Be here at 11 sharp. The fox, still woozy, said goodbye and left. On his way home, he wondered if it would be shabby of him to eat the DeSotos when the job was done. Yes, it would be pretty shabby. After office hours, Mrs. DeSoto molded a tooth of pure gold and polished it. Raw with salt, indeed, muttered Dr. DeSoto. How foolish to trust a fox. He didn't know what he was saying, said Mrs. DeSoto. Why should he harm us? We're helping him. Because he's a fox, said Dr. DeSoto. They're wicked, wicked creatures. That night, the DeSotos lay awake, worrying. Should we let him in tomorrow? Mrs. DeSoto wondered. Once I start a job, said the dentist firmly, I finish it. My father was the same way. But we must do something to protect ourselves, said his wife. They talked and talked until they formed a plan. I think it will work, said Dr. DeSoto. A minute later, he was snoring. The next morning, promptly at 11, a very cheerful fox turned up. He was feeling not a particle of pain. How do you do? When Dr. DeSoto got into his mouth, the fox snapped it shut for a moment, then opened wide and laughed. Just a joke, he chortled. Be serious, said the dentist sharply. We have work to do. His wife was lugging the heavy tooth up the ladder. Just a joke. Oh, I love it, exclaimed the fox. It's just beautiful. Dr. DeSoto set the gold tooth in its socket and hooked it up to the teeth on both sides. The fox caressed the new tooth with his tongue. My, it feels good, he thought. I really shouldn't eat them. On the other hand, how can I resist? We're not finished, said Dr. DeSoto, holding up a large jug. I have here a remarkable preparation developed only recently by my wife and me. With just one application, you can be rid of toothaches forever. How would you like to be the first one to receive this new treatment? I certainly would, the fox declared. I'd be honored. He hated any kind of personal pain. "You will never have to see us again," said Dr. DeSoto. "No one will see you again," said the fox to himself. He had definitely made up his mind to eat them with the help of his brand new tooth. Dr. DeSoto stepped into the fox's mouth with a bucket of secret formula and proceeded to paint each tooth. He hummed as he worked. Mrs. DeSoto stood by on the ladder, pointing out spots he had missed. The fox looked very happy. When the dentist was done, he stepped out. "Now close your jaws tight," he said, "and keep them closed for a full minute." The fox did as he was told. Then he tried to open his mouth, but his teeth were stuck together. "Ah, excuse me, I should have mentioned," said Dr. DeSoto. "You won't be able to open your mouth for a day or two. The secret formula must first permeate the dentine. But don't worry, no pain ever again." The fox was stunned. He stared at Dr. DeSoto, then at his wife. They smiled and waited. All he could say was, "Thank you very much," through his clenched teeth, and get up and leave. He tried to do so with dignity. Dr. DeSoto and his assistant had outfoxed the fox. They kissed each other and took the rest of the day off. The end. Well, thank you for listening to the story, and don't be shy about coming to the library and checking out some picture books, graphic novels, chapter books. What else could you borrow here? DVDs. Do you have a DVD player? Come in and see what we have.